Hello, everybody. We at the USAEL are excited to kick off today's edition of the Careers in Esports series.
This is episode 11 in our recurring series that aims to provide students, educators, and esports enthusiasts with a unique opportunity to explore a multitude of jobs and career pathways in esports and gaming.
That's right, Peter, and you all should know the deal by now. Every month, we talk to a different expert from the world of esports and gaming. This roster includes professional players, coaches, game developers, tournament organizers, and others to give our listeners firsthand insights and expert advice on pursuing a career in the gaming industry.
Our guest list is full of industry veterans stemming from companies and organizations that have established a significant presence in the space, with Blizzard Entertainment, Riot Games, and Bungie, just to name a few.
But as usual, let's first begin with some introductions. I'm Rich Conti.
And I'm Peter Poliglov.
And we are your recurring hosts for the Career in Esports series.
Rich, are you excited to introduce our next guest?
Absolutely. And today should be especially educational because we're talking to somebody with tons of academic experience, both inside and outside of the classroom. So without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce to our audience Shad Lacefield, STEM learning coach, character educator, and teacher. Thank you for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm thrilled, excited to share more about esports and what we're doing in our district. And yeah, just a super big honor to be here.
We're very happy to have you, Shad. Some key moments from Shad's career include being a director of extraordinary STEM sports, formerly known as DSE Golf Club, being the 2023 FCPS Equity Champion, the 2022 Kentucky Science Teachers Association Elementary Science Teacher of the Year, as well as a 2020 Distinguished Service Award from the city of Lexington.
So Shad, before we sort of jump into some of our planned questions here, I noticed the title, character educator. I wanted to ask kind of what does it mean to be a character educator to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's kind of funny in my classroom. I'm not in the classroom anymore, but when I was in my classroom, I would always bring all of these really fun characters that I love into my classroom to help teach my kids different topics and subjects. And so when we were learning about, for example, one of my favorite ones, we were learning about sedimentary rocks. So I dressed as the rock and I came into school that day. When we were learning about ocean animals, I came dressed as Aquaman. And so the kids never knew when I was going to show up as something or not. I would even create my own characters. We were talking about nocturnal animals, and I created this character called the Nocturnal Ninja. And I had this like ninja mask that would light up and stuff like that. And so that just kind of turned into this creating resources and stuff for other teachers to showcase how you can bring some fun, excitement, and laughter into your classroom while encouraging kids to learn in fun new ways.
So on the topic of, bringing fun resources and kind of almost gamifying the classroom, this leads into our next question. What role has gaming played in your life?
Yeah, so gaming's been great. I grew up gaming all the time, and primarily what I used gaming for was building the relationships within my family. So me and my brother, we would game all the time. I grew up on N64, so Mario Kart was one of my favorite games. But then we also had Sega, so we would just stay up super late. I remember playing, and then throughout my life as I started to get older in college and stuff, I played on the baseball team at Campbellsville University, but we would all game. Like, yeah, we were playing baseball, but then when we would get back, like gaming is what we did and how we built our relationships within that team. And even after I got out of college, we would still get online and play Call of Duty together. Even though somebody may be in Canada and I was in the United States, like that's how we stayed connected. Through those relationships. So when I got into the classroom, I would do fun games and again, the characters and stuff as we kind of got in. But as you can see, the Minecraft character there in 2020, when we were going through COVID, I was looking for a fun way to kind of engage my kids as we were not in the classroom anymore. And our district was able to get Minecraft education for free. So then I started to include Minecraft games in my classroom that had that content connections. So for example, when we did energy conversions. I had students design and build simple machines in the world of Minecraft that then they could showcase, and students could visit their world and see the different energy conversion machines that they created. And so then that turned into, I was doing all kinds of build challenges in my classroom, and using that gamifying philosophy to showcase, hey, there's a really fun way to showcase what kids know in a way that we've never really approached before. And parents loved it, kids loved it. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's amazing. I love Minecraft. I think it's such a great educational tool, as well as obviously a really fun sandbox game. Shad, if I may ask, I know Peter also mentioned your experience at the DSE Golf Club. If I could ask, what's sort of your relationship with traditional sports, and do you see any commonalities between traditional sports like golf and gaming or esports, or any shared skill sets?
Yeah, absolutely. So DSE Golf started as an after-school program in 2017. It was specifically designed because our school, where I was teaching at, 90% free and reduced lunch, and we didn't offer, and our students didn't really have access to a lot of high quality after school programming. But the goal was not just to teach the kids golf, which was an outdoor sport, but it was also a sport that didn't discriminate whether you're tall, short, fast, slow. Like everyone's really bad when you start out with golf. And so it was a fun way, no matter boy, girl, whatever we wanted. It was a really cool equity piece within our school after school program. And so, and that's one immediate connection that I feel like we have to esports, is that it doesn't matter what you look like. You can play and you can game and you can be really successful. And so I think that's one fun connection. But then DSE Golf was also not just introducing kids to sports, but the career connections within the game of golf. And so most of our kids, again, because of their financial situation, they're not going to be able to financially purchase what's needed to excel at the collegiate or even a professional level. And we knew that going into it. For us, it was more about building community, building relationships with our kids, getting our kids active and building relationships within their community. And so within that, there's the other esports connection. I feel like is like that teamwork, that building community that allows for esports, which can be a team game, and communication and stuff. And so that was a really big part of DSD Golf. And then we also had, with the career connections within our golf program, we learned about the science behind the golf clubs, the science behind the golf course, the ecology that's involved with that. We also had a DSE news media team that would travel around to events and create videos and content, and help us with projects. And we have an event here in Kentucky called the ISCO, which is a professional PGA tournament. And we've actually, throughout the years, been able to have a team of kids within our golf club participate and do videos for that PGA Tour event. And that's kind of, again, that other connection with esports. It's like, yeah, we realize that some of our kids get in esports, they're not going to be professional gamers, but there's so many awesome careers that are associated within the esports community that we can use our club to get kids interested in, and just take that love of gaming and turn it into a future career possibly for these kids.
So if I'm correct, I think the name has actually evolved from DSE Golf Club, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we were Do Something Extraordinary Golf Club. And then when we started to realize that there is a need, much like there was for golf, for esports support within the nonprofit scene here in Lexington, we decided to expand our programming. And so we changed the name to Extraordinary STEM Sports. And our goal is to help support after school programming or programming within our district that happens within the nonprofits here in Lexington, in financial ways, resourcing ways, and expand that STEM experience for kids using golf and esports. We have eventual goals to try other programs such as drones, and different things like that with the Drone Racing League. So there's the opportunity to expand as we've changed that name and support, some amazing STEM programs.
That's
That
amazing.
very, very cool. You're a very busy guy, Shad. If I can ask, kind of taking a step back for our next question, why did you choose to pursue a career in education? What kind of got you into all this?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of origin stories, as superhero, Marvel, all those things. And mine's kind of interesting because when I went to college, again, I was baseball, stuff like that, but I was going to do pre-dentistry. So I had actually enrolled, I was in pre-dentistry, had this whole thing, outlined of what that was going to look like. For the financial benefits of being a dentist, I thought I was like, hey, I can, I love science and all of these things, and I'll just turn that into a career in dentistry. But that's not what ended up happening. So I was actually at the time working at a cave in southern Indiana called Squire Boone Caverns. Besides doing the tours, we would have tons of school groups come in. My boss realized that I was really great with kids and working with our school groups that would come into the cave. And so she recommended that I go ahead and start leading our scout programs. So I was teaching scout classes from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade that involved geology and forestry. And that's when I fell in love with teaching. I found that I got so much more enjoyment out of working with kids and seeing the light bulb go off and teaching them new fun things in like fun hands-on ways, which science and geology was very much that. And so I was like, I don't want to just look in people's mouths for the rest of my life. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I changed my major, and now rest is history. Here I am.
Shad, I'm sure you would have made a great dentist.
That's right.
Do you feel like your experience kind of playing the old school Nintendo games and playing with your family help contribute or teach you anything about teaching the next generation?
Absolutely. I feel like there's so many times when, as a teacher, you run into these like problem and solution scenarios in the classroom. And a lot of times, again, not just like certainly, but like there's so many games that involve that. When you're walking around and you're in an immersive world and you're trying to, again, go into my Star Wars stuff, when you're playing those video games and you're having to solve problems and figure out solutions and then fail and have to retry and restart and persevere through challenges. I feel like that's a big part of what we do in teaching. Like, we're always trying to problem and solution situations. We're failing as teachers and we're trying to regroup and refocus and come back and persevere through those challenges so that we don't end up giving up. So that's a big thing for me, seeing that connection between, growing up playing games and then what I can do now as a teacher. But then also games are fun. And so I like to bring fun into my classroom all the time. And so I think of fun ways like what made me engage with this game, what kept my attention with this game. And as a teacher, we're trying to do that. What's going to make my kids engage with me? What's going to make them pay attention? And so I think that has also helped me.
Real quick, I was also I taught the forestry merit badge, so
Nice.
respect.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Shad, if I could ask, we usually do ask this earlier on, but one, what is your favorite game right now? And then two, did you play any games in like college or high school that you kind of think are your favorite, or maybe your defining games, if you had to name a top three or something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are great questions. I the best part for me is with the esports programs that we have here in the district. What I love to do is when my kids are playing, because again, my favorite game is Mario Kart. And so when they get their team set up and they think that they're really good, I used to play competitively online on the Wii. And so that's just a whole different like how you do that. But anyways, all that to say, so what I'll do is after they've raced a little bit and they got like their best racers, I'll say, okay, I'll race against you and I'll let you pick any car and any character and any map, and I'll still beat you. So, and it's really fun for them because they like pick like the really random things. And it's like, no, I still win. So no, I love Mario Kart. Mario Kart's the game for me for sure.
I
And then
like how I like how you said when they think they're really good, that's when I step in to give them the
oh,
humility,
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
respect your elders type of thing.
Oh, good times. So was there something else that I missed on that one though? That's my favorite game and what I like to do with our kids.
That's a great favorite game. I mean, yeah, if you wanted to name a top three, if you have two more that you want to shout out from your life.
So in college, that's when Halo was big for me. So I guess I'm
Oh
dating
yeah.
myself a little bit. And so Halo had just come out, and then we started to in college. That's what we did when we were done with baseball stuff, or when we would get in the dorms. We'd all get together and we would just play Halo over and over and over again. And so grew up doing that at college. But then right after that, Call of Duty came out, and that's how we stayed connected afterwards. So I think those games kind of have like a nostalgia for me,
Nice.
because that was kind of something that I did like really, really competitively and built those relationships that I was still able to keep. But even like I said, Mario Kart's always going to be my favorite because my wife, we will sometimes still like we have Mario Kart at the house. Like that's what we'll do at night sometimes. We'll be like, hey, do you want to play Mario Kart together? And then we'll go and we'll play. So that's still, I think it'd be hard to ever beat that one.
That's a great pick. What's it like working in education? How do you gamify your classroom?
Yeah, great questions. I, I tell people all the time, I have the coolest job in the world right now. So as a STEM learning coach in my district, I get to bring really cool STEM activities to students all over our district. So last year I visited 27 elementary schools on the STEM bus, which you can see pictured there. So the STEM bus is a grant funded opportunity where we try to showcase almost like use it, how to gamify your classroom, how to pull in STEM technology in a fun and engaging way. So for example, one of our units is actually on drones, but we have a career connection. So we talk about the company Zipline and how Zipline uses drones to transport medical supplies to remote hospitals in countries like Rwanda. And then what we do within the STEM bus is we gamify the drones, and we have these different hospitals around their classroom on these landing mats, and students have to work in teams and then code and program their drones to make blood drops at these different hospitals. So it's not just like I'm flying a drone. It's not just I'm coding a drone. It's like, no, let's gamify it. Let's make it this fun, engaging activity, pull in those teammates and work together to solve these problems and have fun along the way. And then students on the bus will actually design and build using our makerspace, the Dropbox that you would actually drop from a drone. And so they get to design and build it, and they have a short amount of time and limited resources to do it. And then we get to throw it off the back of the bus, and it's a little cup with water. We call it our cup of blood, even though it's just a cup of water. And they get to see like, hey, did I build my box effectively enough? How could I improve it and stuff? And so yeah, that's just one, but that's pretty much like we do tons of things besides that. We have spherical robotics that we do and indies. And like I said, it's the fun thing of like, yeah, I just get to travel around and do all the fun stuff that you would love to do as a teacher, and I don't have to worry about report cards or admins and what their scores are and stuff like that. I just get to work with some of our amazing teachers and showcase this is a fun way to pull these activities into your classroom and these resources that we have in the district, so you can keep your kids engaged and you can kind of energize yourself as a teacher to not just be doing the mundane over and over again.
And in your experience, are most teachers open to using whatever resources are available to engage their students? Are they kind of open to meeting students where they are, even if it means bringing maybe some untraditional methods into the classroom?
I think there's always going to be that initial like panic of something new. And I think that's the important part of what the STEM bus does. Of we go, and it's not just like, hey, here is this drone or here is this robot. It's like, here it is, and let me teach your kids and show you how to do it in real time. And then once you see how easy it is and how engaged your kids are, then that follow up of like, oh, okay, how do I get my hands on these resources? How do we do that? And whether that's like Minecraft, or even makeys that we do, it's one of those things that you get nervous. Then we model and show you the success and the impact that it has. And then it's like, okay, now I want to do that, or how can I use that in my classroom?
The bus is awesome, and I think the sort of multi-step drone relay race, that sounds really, really cool. If I can ask, Shad, what is maybe your favorite or most effective means of engagement? Is it the STEM bus, or what might you say sort of engages the students the most?
I mean, the STEM bus is great, but the thing I love about the STEM bus is it also allows me to continue my costumes. Um, and so I really think for kids, when you come dressed as something really silly or something they can connect with, you automatically open up the door for um, a quicker access to that relationship that allows you to help them succeed in the classroom. And I think a lot of times kids have a perception of what teachers in the classroom look like, and they experience that like day in and day out. So if I can come in dressed as the Lego man as we get ready to use our spike primes to design and build something, it just is like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, yeah, and I just have them locked in from the moment I walk in the classroom. And so for me, it's always or at least lately has been the costumes of like I can grab their attention because I'm connecting to them on a more personal of something that they may be interested in, or like, what, you play Minecraft or you know Legos? And it's like, yeah, absolutely.
That's a great point. Yeah, one of my follow-up questions to that was maybe going to be how educators might be able to start if they don't have access to equipment like the STEM bus or things or drones, stuff like that. But something like costumes is maybe an easy way to dip your toes into that. Sounds
Yeah.
like.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell teachers, I was an adjunct professor at Asbury University with classroom management. And one thing that I would work with those new teachers on is this is what works for me, but you got to find what works for you. Kids want to know about their teachers. Kids want to engage with you in some capacity. And we're not talking about like you have to be their best friends or anything, because you're still the leader in that classroom, someone that they need to look up to and as a mentor. So what you need to do is how can you take your passion and what you love and connect that to what the kids are learning. Show them that real world connection. So I had one teacher, for example, that loves plants. And I was like, you bring all kinds of plants into your classroom. You deck your plants out, and then that is what gets the kids connected to you. You talk about how much you love plants and what plants mean and all these different plants and stuff. And you show the excitement of that and then connect it to what they're learning in the classroom. And that's you're in. You don't have to dress as Superwoman. You don't have to do all these crazy things. What do you love? Connect that to what you're doing in the classroom and it'll work wonders.
Beautiful. Well said. And actually, that transitions nicely into our next question here, which is, can you tell us a little bit about the day-to-day as an educator in the classroom at Fayette County?
Yeah, so I was a teacher for 15 years before getting into my current position. Uh, oh, the day-to-day teaching. So it's very interesting. I was fortunate that I've had a lot of really great administrators, and so for me, when I was in the classroom, it didn't bother my principal that I would come dressed up as, the mad scientist, or some of these costumes down here, like Captain America, as we were talking about particles, or even Elsa, as we were doing some of our science experiments. And so the day to day, yeah, I'm in the classroom. We're doing behavior and stuff like that. But within our situation as well, we were departmentalized. So for me, I just did science and social studies, and so kids would rotate around because we were preparing them for the middle school level. And so we have that. You have all of your meetings and stuff like that. But one cool thing too was when we had time to plan, there was always an opportunity for me to look at my lessons and to say, what can I do to make this better? What can I do to make it more impactful? Our district, since it's the second largest school district in the state of Kentucky, we are also blessed that they purchase a lot of our curriculum ahead of time. So most of those things are kind of laid out. Like my science curriculum was Amplify. Our reading curriculum was one. Like we had all of these pre-set up. So I kind of knew, and I didn't have to spend a ton of time like going through and what am I going to teach when, because that's kind of laid out for us pretty effectively. But what I could do is I know I'm teaching this. Where are my kids low at? And how can I build and scaffold those lessons? And then where can I pull in some fun and engagement that can help those kids as well on a deeper level? And then now my job is, so 50% of my time is traveling around to schools with the STEM bus, showcasing how to implement STEM into your classroom. And then the other 50% is as a STEM learning coach for our STEM academies. So that's George Washington Carver STEM Academy for boys, Rise STEM Academy for girls, and then our STEAM Academy, which is the high school. So two elementary. So I support those teachers with implementing technology in their classroom, working on project-based learning activities to pull community partners into their classroom to help them create these projects that have a meaningful impact, not just in their lives, but also they can see the results in the community. And so now, like I said, I get to do tons of awesome things.
Shad, what would you say spawned your love of cosplay, and what was the first costume that you ever wore to a school?
That's hilarious. So I have 4 kids, and birthday parties are a thing. They're just are. So tons of costumes. Like our house is there's just a whole closet of nothing but costumes. And so that's always been like, the thing with kids. But then also growing up, I enjoyed dressing up as characters and stuff like that. I always thought that was fun, that imagination side and pretending. But the first outfit I ever did was when we were on Zoom and I was trying to get my kids to show up to class, as most teachers were during COVID. And I dressed up as Flash, and I'm pretty fast. And so I would race my kids all the time at school. So I was missing that since we were at home. So I couldn't race them anymore. And so I was like, hey, I'm Flash. We're going to race. We're going to get up and run. I dressed as Flash. And I had the most attendance that day online that I've ever had dressing as Flash. So then from that point on, when I was online, I then I think it was over 120 something different costumes that I dressed in the whole time that it was every day was a new costume. And then when we finally made it back to school, Flash was the first one that I was at again. So I dressed as Flash and I raced all the kids at recess and stuff. So to show them that I was way faster than they were.
That's awesome.
There's no fourth grader that I can't outrun yet.
Flash is your number one. What are your like top 5 favorite characters that you like to bring to class?
Yeah, so once I started implementing Minecraft, like that became the thing. Like Minecraft Steve would come, and actually Minecraft Steve would come, but as a character within Minecraft Steve. So one time we did a Top Gun drone course in my classroom before I had this job, and we were doing math and measurement and encoding and programming during Hour of Code in December. And so I dressed as Minecraft Steve, but then in my Top Gun outfit. And then they had like this whole Top Gun lesson that we had to do. And so that became the joke is like I'd be Minecraft Steve as a scientist, Minecraft Steve, as Top Gun pilot, Minecraft Steve. And that became like just a fun thing that we were doing. So my Minecraft characters are ones that I still use even today because we do Minecraft build challenges at the district. So I get to surprise our winners dressed as my Minecraft characters. I have the Creeper, but then next was Star Wars. So I did another thing called Vader Visits. And so as a big Star Wars fan, I dressed as Darth Vader. And during COVID, when we were finally allowed to visit kids at their home, I think I want to say I did like just over 60 in-person visits as Darth Vader to play games with my kids at their house. And so then that became like a staple. Like Mr. Lace was going to dress as Darth Vader at least 10 times throughout the school year. So I dress as Darth Vader, play with them in their PE class or something like that. And so I had my Star Wars characters that the kids became to know like, hey, that's how they connected with. They knew I love Star Wars. So those are my ones for sure.
And those Vader visits that you were doing, and was that kind of to just make sure you're able to maintain that connection and the relationships with your students during a time, right, where they were kind of locked in?
Absolutely. The goal was it started out as just a reward system. So any student that got all of their work done and turned in while we were virtual, I had like a little Vader wheel and I'd spin it every week. And so every week I'd visit like 2 kids. And so like midweek and then end of the week. And so we just spin that wheel. And whenever the kid's name would pop up, I'd be like, I'm coming to your house tomorrow. And so, yeah, just like you said, I feel like again it goes back to like that relationship piece and connecting with the kids is how I always felt really successful in the classroom. And so it was an easy way to take what I love and then connect with them in a time that was hard to connect.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you, Shad. And our next question is actually for the students a little bit here. For any of the students who are looking to pursue a career in education, what advice might you give them? How might they go about that?
Yeah, so I always tell like, again going back to my Asbury and teaching and stuff I'm working with kids that are wanting to get into teaching. You are a natural teacher. Like you're naturally able to communicate a lot of times. Like, hey, and even when you're playing at recess and stuff like that, like you can kind of see and feel like, hey, I want to teach you something. I want you to learn something. So kind of cultivate that as you get ready to go on. And if you're in the high school level, volunteer and go back to the elementary level and volunteer in classes and see what teachers are doing, see what kids are doing. And the coolest thing too is as a volunteer at the high school level, going back to elementary, you're a stinking rock star. Those kids love that they got a high schooler in their room and they're going to make you feel like the coolest person in the world. And so then start building upon those natural instincts of teaching and educating and sharing like how to do something. with kids and volunteering and giving back in that way. And then when you get to college, that's when you start diving into the coursework and the classes on curriculum and implementation and classroom management. But you've done the initial at the beginning. You've built that desire to impact and work with kids and see the smiles and to see the joy that you can bring them when you help them, when you encourage them, and when you're able to teach them something that they did not know to begin with. And so that's a good path to be able to be on and to get into education. I know I love it.
In Kentucky, what are the requirements in order to actually become a teacher?
Yeah, great question. So you, and it's interesting in Kentucky. I need to see if there's more states like this. So most of the time, the normal way that you're going to do it, once you graduate from your normal 4-year college institution, you have your specific major. So for mine, it was like, a bachelor's of science in elementary education, so P through 5. So then once I graduated with that, then you have to actually take your exam. And so for us, there's two exams that you have to take within that specialty within those areas of your teaching. So once you pass that exam, which is called the praxis, then you get your teaching certificate. After you get that certificate, you're then on a probation period for about a year. So it's your initial certification. You spend a year. You have to do some requirements and stuff like that in the classroom. It used to be student teaching. It's called, you have all those things that you're going into. And so then once you do that, then you get into the classroom and then you progress. There's actually, with the shortage of teachers recently, there's other avenues besides just the normal, like go to college, take my test, pass it, do my student teaching, get in the classroom. I'm on that year, before I get my initial certification. But so I have a friend that teaches at the STEAM Academy that graduated college with just a math degree. And so then after he graduated with his math degree, because he was wanting to do accounting and other things in terms of job, and then didn't like the desk work that was involved with that. So he wanted to get back into teaching. And so he went back and got an emergency certification, which is a year-long program that's offered through some of our universities that's specific to education. So you get a degree in education. And that turns into your master's degree. So you have your undergraduate. So it turns into a graduate course. It's a year-long master's degree with a focus in education. And then he was able to teach once he got that certification. So there are some avenues, even for those people that are like, hey, I want to get back into teaching. So in Kentucky, we do have some of those options as well.
That's awesome. And is there anything that you see that might evolve in Kentucky education?
One thing with my job right now is being able to be on the forefront and kind of see how technology is impacting education with AI, for example, coming in and stuff like that. And teachers, I'm getting ready to speak at the beginning of our school year to all of our teachers about the appropriate use of AI in their classrooms and be able to showcase that. And so I do think that's going to play a big role going forward, and being able to adapt and learn as new technology is coming out. And I feel like the new crop of educators that are growing up with AI are going to be really effective in teaching and educating. Not just AI, but any new technology that comes through, because they've grown up with this constant influx of new technologies that they're having to learn, adapt, and apply in their own lives. And so it'll be a really good transition for them to be able to use that again and then teach that with our kids. And I want to say too, most of our non-traditional teachers, like the one that I talked about with my friend, I feel like we're also seeing an influx in that, with the current job market in some of the areas and how AI is impacting some jobs. You're seeing more people be like, I want to get into teaching, or I'm looking for these other career opportunities. And teaching sometimes can be appealing. I know some people are like, don't do it. Teaching's not that appealing, but I find it appealing. And so I feel like those are two areas that we're going to see, again, AI kind of really impacting what we're doing and who we're recruiting and how we're bringing it. We even now with like teacher pay and stuff like that, like that's become more of an emphasis. And even though we're the second largest school district in the state, and we are a public school, we actually have the highest starting teacher salary in the state. And so that was one thing that we pushed because we valued hiring quality educators to help impact and improve our academic success of the students.
That's definitely something to be proud of. Last question for today. Shad, why do you think that schools today, K-12 and beyond, should support their students' love for gaming?
This is a great question. Um, I keep going back to conversations with administrators that focus around, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's something crazy of like middle schoolers, like 90 something percent of middle schoolers game. And when you get that number in your head, ask yourself, how many other things in this world can you say that 90% of middle schoolers do? So knowing that you have all of these students that are already gaming, why not take that love for what they're doing and show them the career opportunities that can stem from that love? And again, you're not, when you're doing esports, you're not always going to be like, oh yeah, I have this amazing gamer that's now making, all this money gaming online. But you could get a kid that gets a digital arts love and starts creating and designing, and so then that's their avenue. Or game design, which we have in our district, and it's like, yeah, I love video games, now I'm going to go and I'm going to design my own video game. And even with shoutcasting and all these other careers that esports offers, I feel like I try to draw that connection to our administrators and to our teachers to showcase, like, how many times are you going to be able to say, I have 90 over 90% of my students that all love to do this one thing, and now I can connect that one thing to all these different career paths and all these different educational opportunities and connections within my curriculum even. And so yeah, I think that's the biggest reason why, students can almost leverage kiddos, your love of gaming, into being like, we should be doing more of this in our school.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Shad. And if I can ask, a follow-up to that is, if that's the why they should support their love of gaming, how might schools support students' love of gaming?
No, awesome. Another great question. So one thing that we do specifically is, most of the time, the gaming at the elementary and primarily the elementary level is done after school. So it's putting in supports and opportunities for teachers who are already doing so much anyways to be able to support an after school club like esports. Um, and one way that our district is doing that is we do pay a stipend for our after school programs, not just esports, but just any, because we value that after school impact that it has on kids. And so we do a small stipend for those teachers. So that's one of the things that schools can do. Another thing is just being receptive to know that just because it's video games, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative game, or that it's the games that you're like, oh no, what are they playing? I can't believe that they're doing this. But it's more about the experience and the connection to making new friends. A lot of times to kids that don't participate in traditional sports, and have an opportunity to build relationships and make connections that are really, really, really important. And so again, it's just being like one of our schools, for example, they use their teachers lounge for their esports gaming because they didn't have any other space, and it had two big IFPs, interactive flat panels. And so in that situation, it was like, where do we put it? And the principal and the teachers were like, we're going to support this. Let's put it in our teachers lounge, because we also know that in our teachers lounge, that's where the equipment's going to be the most like protected and cared for as well. And it was okay that after school, like, that's what the kids did. One day a week, they got that lounge. And so again, they found the space. Um, and then volunteering is also another big one. Like those clubs, those kids, they need that person. And sometimes it's, a teacher, and sometimes it's a parent, and sometimes it's an administrator that's like, I'm going to help in this way or make this connection for you. So, yeah.
And just one last question for me. We've met a lot of teachers who might have suggested the idea of starting an esports team or an after school club, and then they find themselves the sole person in charge of running the school's Rocket League esports teams or the after school program. And sometimes they come to us and they're like, what do? I don't know the games. The students know this better than me. Do you have any advice for educators that find themselves in a situation like that?
I love it. Yes, it is okay that you have no idea how to play that game. It is perfectly fine because the kids are the experts and the kids can help teach you. What you need to prioritize is giving them that safe place and space to be able to game. And then what our kids struggle with, the organization side of, when practice needs to happen. How can we be healthy while we're practicing? What are some digital citizenship things that we can keep in mind while we're gaming? Because you guys are the experts, and there's no way that I'm going to be better than you at this game. But what I can do is I can help set the framework up for a successful and safe gaming environment for you to showcase your amazing skills that you have at this game. And so that's how I can come in to support. I say that with Minecraft all the time. I was like, you do not have to be a Minecraft expert for your kids to be able to create amazing things because they're the experts. You're just the educational support or the curriculum support or like I said, the coach support. And it's all good. You are okay that you don't know how to play it.
Except for
Thank you.
Mario Kart. You could always beat
That's
them
right.
at Mario Kart.
All the time, every time.
Well, thank you, Shad. Unfortunately, that being said, we are out of time here. So we wanted to thank everyone listening today. And obviously, Shad, a huge thank you to you for being our panelist today and sharing your experience with our students and educators. I know they will appreciate it.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for having me. It was great to talk and share. Love what you guys are doing with the USAEL. And so, again, appreciate all that you're doing and the impact that you're having in the esports community.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shad. Stay safe and happy gaming. Until next time. Bye-bye.